Walt Disney and the Disney Company in general certainly come to mind right away. And I'm sure some of you know of the Studio Ghibli films, and I believe they deserve to be mentioned in the same breath. I mean, Disney bought the North American distribution rights to all Studio Ghibli films back in 1996, so even they know how incredible these films are. Founded by Hayao Miyazaki in 1985, Studio Ghibli has produced 24 animated films, with Miyazaki being the director of 10 of these films, with an 11 coming out in July. All of the films directed by Miyazaki were scored by composer Joe Hisaishi, and with this partnership arose some of the most iconic films in film music today. Here in bold are the films that Hisaishi and Miyazaki collaborated on, and highlighted are the films I wrote about for my capstone. My project focuses on the music of Joe Hisaishi in 4 of these films, analyzing the different techniques and understanding why this music is so good and why it helps tell the story laid out by Hayao Miyazaki so successfully. I did not grow up with these films like many people my age did, and while I had heard of them as a child, they were never really part of what I watched. Fast forward to sometime during March of 2022, during my junior capstone class, I was struggling to figure out what I wanted to focus on. I had many interests in the field of music, and narrowing it down to one was going to be tough. During this time, I was watching a YouTube video made by one of my favorite creators, Naure Soul. She analyzed the music in the Ghibli films and showed why they were so good and why they're so nostalgic to so many people.
Whenever I hear a soundtrack of a Studio Ghibli film, I inevitably come across a feeling of nostalgia and a sweet sense of optimism. I get a mixture of emotions such as feeling loneliness and community, innocence and coming of age, feeling grounded to the earth and floating without gravity, and feeling at peace while also feeling homesick to a place I can't even remember.
Because of this video and the fact that I consider myself a film composer, I garnered a great interest for this music, and naturally I began to listen to music and watch these films. I was instantly drawn towards it and decided to do my senior capstone around this subject. I was slightly worried at first that I would lose interest in this topic as Hisaishi's music was not something I had previously engaged with, but thankfully this music is so interesting and these movies are so compelling that I never lost it. These films and the music that accompanies these films have become such a cultural phenomenon, being so important to so many people who are around my age that I believe it must be talked about. And while I'm certainly not the first person to talk about these films, there's not a large body of scholarship on this topic, and that's why it's important to shed more light on why this music is so impactful. Joe Hisaishi has these different techniques when writing for his films that makes his music so compelling and cohesive in each of these films. For example, in films like Howl's Moving Castle and The Wind Rises, 2 of the movies I wrote about in my paper, Hisaishi repeats themes, changing only instrumentation, rhythm, and meter, but keeping the same theme throughout the entire movie. On the other hand, in films like Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, and Spirited Away, Hisaishi doesn't really have one theme he repeats throughout the whole film. Rather, he uses different melodies and harmonies in different scenes for different reasons. Today, I'll just be talking about Spirited Away, as it's all I have time for, but I would certainly encourage a deep dive into all of the work done by Hisaishi and Miyazaki together. And if you all have questions about the other films at the end of the presentation, I'd be happy to answer them. But before I dive deeper into Spirited Away, I wanted to mention some of the transcription work I did. All the transcriptions you'll encounter in my presentation were created by me using the finale. None of this music is officially published, which left me a choice. I could either analyze the music without it being all written out, or I could write it out myself and transcribe it. So I decided to go the second route because I thought it would be a good exercise in ear training and melodic and harmonic dictation. I chose to reduce the score to just a grand staff with the melody in the right hand and a simplified harmony in the left as a more concise way of conveying the music. Spirited Away is a film that follows the adventures of Chihiro, a young girl who's experiencing the angst of moving from her childhood home. Chihiro and her parents make a wrong film is certainly world-renowned, being called one of the greatest films of the 21st century, and is often referred to as the greatest animated film of all time. It earned an Oscar for Best Animated Film in 2003, and has been cited for inspiration and influential for many film creators after its release. Here are some of the characters I mentioned in my presentation. We have Chihiro, who's the main character. She's trying to return to her parents. Kamaji is the boiler man for whom Chihiro tries to work. Ling is a bathhouse worker who helps Chihiro get a job. Yubaba is the owner of the bathhouse and the main antagonist of the film. And Haku is Yubaba's henchman and assists Chihiro throughout the film to return to her parents. In Spirited Away, Hisaishi uses a variety of melodies, harmonies, genres, tempos, instrumentations, tonalities, and textures to help heighten the viewer's understanding of both Chihiro's development as a character, as well as the changes in a scene's mood, while keeping the score cohesive with the film, as well as between pieces. This film often feels chaotic and sort of all over the place, and the music in this film serves it well because of the variety of musical elements he uses. I'll be analyzing these techniques that Hisaishi uses from the perspective of musical examples. Half of these would be played by me on the piano, and the other half, for the other half, we'll look at short clips from the film itself. And we will start by looking at the opening scene. These chords, as I'm sure some of you recognize, are the chords that open the main theme of the film, One Summer's Day. Hisaishi here uses jazzy chords with a chordal voicing to create, as Narisol puts it, this very ambiguous sense of harmony, lending to a feeling of wonder and mystery, which sets up this wonderful and mysterious film very well. Within this one scene, Hisaishi changes musical aspects of the piece, here specifically instrumentation, to show many different emotions and emotional changes within a single scene. The piece plays when Chihiro, the main character, is upset about moving to a new place, and the instrumentation reflects Chihiro's yearning for her old home because of the nostalgic sound of the piano and the strings. And then the string part will be played by my left hand. The ambiguous choral harmony and this melody centered around many repeated notes with no clear tonal center lend to Chihiro's feeling of uncertainty about moving to a new place. The piece then seamlessly transitions to a triumphant section dominated by brass instrumentation as Chihiro and her family are quickly driving through the woods, showing Hisaishi's ability to transition his music gracefully from one mood to another within a single scene. The piece then ends with a set of mysterious chords as the family approaches the abandoned theme park, once again showing Hisaishi's prowess in changing music to match the mood of the scene and a rapidly changing scene at that. Be sure to listen to these things as I show you some. Hisaishi also changes the tone of his music to represent Chihiro's understanding of the strange world she's now engulfed in, as well as her development into a more independent person. Chihiro encounters Kamaji, the boiler man, for whom Haku told her to seek employment. Kamaji's put a spell on the soot around the boiler room that makes him haul coal into the boiler. Because of this, he's not in need of any workers. However, Haku urged Chihiro to persist when asking for work, so she stays anyway. At one point, one of the soot balls drops a piece of coal. Chihiro then picks it up and takes it to the boiler. Prior to stumbling upon this abandoned theme park and bathhouse, Chihiro never would have done manual labor. During this time, a stately theme is being played in harmonic minor, with the fourth scale degree often being raised. And this reflects the realization that she's going to have to work hard to get back with her parents. The chromaticism added by the raised fourth scale degree gives this uneasy feeling to the piece, as Chihiro is confused about the soot that has seemingly come to life. However, she's seen a lot of strange things today, and this does not faze her. The lower end of the music, first occupied by the bass notes of the piano, and then later by the tuba and bassoon, are playing a staccato pedal tone, which reinforces the monotonous work that the cymbals of Chihiro are doing. The melody repeats the same motif twice in a row, also representing the labor being done. Later, the key then changes, but the same theme is repeated, representing Chihiro and her dynamism as a character. On occasion, Hisaishi will use instrumentation to directly represent certain characters. Chihiro is unsuccessful in getting a job at the Kamaji, but is then sent with another bathhouse worker, Lin, to Yubaba, the boss of the bathhouse, as seen in this picture, to get a job. Chihiro's first encounter with this character is accompanied by a piece called Yubaba. Chihiro is directly represented by the high notes and Yubaba by the low, and while it seems as if the low notes dominate the sound initially, you always hear the high notes reflecting Chihiro and her unrelenting begging for a job. Yubaba is cursed to give a job to whomever asks, although she does not want to. The low notes Yubaba try to drown out the high, Chihiro, to no avail. Chihiro signs her contract and is now employed, but Yubaba steals her name, and Chihiro is now called Sen. Sen's musical representation as the flute in its artwork is altered quickly between two scenes to show her development more clearly. Sen is now committed to rescuing her parents no matter what she must do, so she continues to work with Lin because she's unable to rescue her parents if she does not. During this next clip, be sure to listen to the flute playing the melody as well as the ostinato accompaniment.
How are you, son? I was really worried.
I'm sorry.
On my way.
The music reflects the hard work being done in the bathhouse to keep it running. The piece begins with a short ostinato that is continued throughout the piece, reflecting this repetition and monotony of working. The main melody, played on a flute using the C minor pentatonic scale, also matches the word theme of this tune. The melody has a lot of repeated notes in it, and rather than a long, slurred melodic line, it is comprised of some dotted rhythms and short staccato notes. The C minor pentatonic, along with the syncopation, dotted rhythms, and staccato notes, parallels Sen's inexperience and gives us this feeling of uncertainty and slight distress as she is now learning to be a hard worker. In a following scene, Sen now encounters what is thought to be a strange snake spirit in the bathhouse, and has been stuck with the job of tending to the spirit, as the rest of the workers are too afraid to take care of the spirit. Listen again to the flute and the accompaniment, but notice how they're different from the previous scene. Hisaishi makes his accompaniment feel uneasy by using choral harmony, chromaticism, and short horn interjections to represent the uneasiness felt amongst the rest of the bathhouse workers. And on top of this uneasy accompaniment is a flute melody played using the F major pentatonic scale to reflect Sen's growing confidence and initiative when working with the sing spirit. What is played while she's taking care of the sing spirit is much more confident and rises above the accompaniment, just as Sen rose above the rest of the workers to take care of the spirit. While the pieces I showed you are just a few of the many beautiful examples of Hisaishi's work, he has many other scores where his ability to use different musical elements from film to film and piece to piece is on full display. It's because of this that his music is so compelling, cohesive, and serves well whatever is on screen, whether that be the magical world of Spirited Away or the toxic jungle of Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. I certainly hope this analysis showed why Hisaishi's music is so important, especially when it comes to film scoring. And with the 11th Miyazaki Hisaishi movie coming out in July, I think now is an especially good time to look back on what Hisaishi has done with the music in these films. And as I said previously, there's been very little academic writing on this music, and especially given its success, I believe it's important to talk more about this music and hopefully inspire more people not only to watch these films and listen to this music, but also to write about this beautiful music. This music certainly inspired me as I had the opportunity to create my own film score for my good friend Simon's film thesis. And in the future, I hope to continue scoring films and eventually go into grad school in that field. This project has left me to reflect on my time here at CC and what I learned not only about the music, but about myself as well. Just this year, I started taking organ lessons and I joined the gamelan ensemble, and I think the fact that I took a leap of faith with this project also led me to further expand my musical horizons. I hope to continue to expand those horizons, and I hope this presentation inspired you all to do the same. I'd like to thank the music department, Sue Grace, for helping me engage with this music in other ways beyond written analysis, and my advisors, Brian Montigali and Michael Grace, for guiding me through this process. Thank you.
People here? Oh, there it is. Great, so we have a few minutes. Thank you so much, Lincoln. That was wonderful. And I have this microphone for anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question. I'll run the microphone to anybody who might be interested. Okay, one over here. First of all, I love the presentation. It's a great job. I think that the topic of nostalgia is really interesting. I personally grew up with these films, so it hits really hard. But I'm wondering what salient features may make the music nostalgic upon first listen.
That's a great question. So I don't feel that way because I didn't grow up in these films. The nostalgia really isn't there for me. And I know last year. Or maybe 2 years ago, there was a capstone presentation surrounding this idea of nostalgia in music. And he touched on the music from these films in that presentation. And you know, whether that's instrumentation or just familiar melodies from your childhood, like this all can lead to this feeling of nostalgia. Yeah,
Love the presentation, Lincoln. So you mentioned that there were 2 sort of categories where Hisaishi had a theme throughout the movie and this was a category where there was no theme throughout the movie. I was wondering what the main takeaways were in your analysis.
That's a great question. So in Howl's Moving Castle, I can go back. In these 2 movies. He has this one theme that's, it's a very short theme, and he pretty much takes this theme and just repeats it for the entire movie, sometimes changing instrumentation, tonality, texture. he does all these different things with it, but the core melody is the same. In The Wind Rises, he does the same thing except there are two different melodies. One being used for, there are sort of two subplots within that movie, and one theme is used for one, and one is used for another. And you know, it's interesting to look at like the differences in how he uses the techniques in this film and the other films, because it's just all a very compelling way of composing and all very valid way of composing, and it serves these movies really well. So like, you know, if you go watch these movies, I would encourage you to hear it, because it's like every single song pretty much is one of these two melodies, or in Howl's Moving Castle, it's just one melody.
Any other questions? I've got one from Ian.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, Ian.
Thanks for your wonderful presentation. My question for you, you mentioned the music of the movies as a really important inspiration for you in your own music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you could point to some elements of the music that you are interested in bringing into your future film story, so I can watch out for them in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Film scores.
I think one thing, this is sort of a film music convention that I think he said she does extremely well, is creating music in some scenarios that needs to be dialed back a little bit to sort of leave space for whatever is happening on screen. But then in other moments, like really bringing out the music because it's what the scene asks for. And I try to do that in my own music. The harmonies he uses is very, you know, it's this Japanese anime style of harmony that he uses that I think is really cool, and why I haven't quite figured out how to implement it in my own music. I think that's definitely something I think about a lot.
We have time for one more question. Anyone has a burning question?
Okay, Lincoln, that was awesome. What's your favorite movie? Sorry, I'm about to talk for 20 minutes. So what of these movies is your favorite movie, and which one is your favorite soundtrack, and are they the same? And if they are, why? And if they're not, why?
That's great. So I think my favorite film is Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. I think Nausicaa is a super compelling character, and I think this movie was sort of like well ahead of its time with the way Nausicaa is portrayed, as well as like it's sort of takes place in this world that's being destroyed by a toxic jungle, sort of a parallel to like the climate crisis we're having now. And I think this movie came out in, I think, was it 1984? Is that right? Yeah. So, you know, well ahead of its time, sort of showing how humans have affected this world, and yeah, I think that's really compelling. As far as soundtrack goes, it's so hard. That's really hard. I think I definitely had the most fun learning the song "One Summer's Day" on piano. I think that you know my biases lean that way. But you know, The Wind Rises is also definitely up there as well. I love all of this. It's kind of hard to choose one score to be my favorite, but yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much, Lincoln. That was wonderful. All right. So while Leo is getting set up, I am going to go ahead. And introduce him. All right. So, Leo Paternini is from Portland, Maine. His personal musical fun fact is that he tried playing music in the first grade and actually hated it. A random personal fun fact is that he almost passed out at his high school graduation after playing a Marvin Gaye song and had to go to the ER. I'm sure there's a story there. His plans for after graduation, his immediate plans are to become the world's first trillionaire. He's going to do that right away. After that, he'll likely go on to do a lot of other wonderful things too. So the title of his capstone is Music Production, Creativity, and the Digital Music Industry. And I think maybe just need another few seconds to get set up. Are you good?
Well, should be good, but evidently I'm not.
There it is for just a minute. There it is.
Oh, nice.
All you have to do is walk on stage. Alright.
Okay, hello everyone. What a turnout. It's almost like music at midday here right now. It's crazy. 10 people with me. So my project was called Music Production, Creativity in the Digital Music Industry. My name is Leo, my advisor is Ida Alroni, and Boone Michael Goritz. My goals for this project was, first and foremost, to create an album that I was proud of. In the past, I've created a lot of music. Since I've been in high school, I made 5 EPs and hated every single one of them the second I finished them. So the first and foremost goal was for me to make a cohesive collection of songs that I really enjoy. Next, I wanted to create other elements to go with the music, such as music videos. And I created a couple music videos, and throughout the presentation you'll see some stills from those videos. And then beyond that, I wanted to understand my own creative process in a really mature way. As an artist, there's like so many elements to the creative process, from having the first idea to recording it, to producing it, to mixing it. And I wanted to create a workflow that made sense to me. And then beyond just the creative side of things, I really wanted to take this opportunity to learn a bit about the music industry itself. So I wanted to learn about the modern music industry, how labels and artists interact, and then beyond that I also wanted to learn about the internet's role within the modern music industry, because the industry has changed a lot over the last 10 years even, especially since the pandemic. We all spend a lot more time online, and the way that artists interface with the internet is changing the industry. So just a quote that sort of sums up the core of my thesis project was from a reading called Conceptualizing the Relationship Between Youth, Music, and DIY Careers by Andy Bennett. And the quote is this: through its enabling of a more autonomous space for the creation, production, and dissemination of music, digital recording technology also plays a significant role in the shaping of DIY music careers. Most of this album was made in bedrooms on laptops. There was we have the CC studio, but 90% of this project was recorded in my room by me alone, or in Adam, my collaborator's room, just the two of us. So I thought, just like without the music tech that we've had available to us, it wouldn't have been possible, and I wouldn't have this foothold in the music industry to potentially start a career. Without further ado, I'm going to talk about my album a little bit. It is 9 tracks long. It is approximately 32 minutes. It took 2 years of songwriting, production, and recording. There are 6 collaborators on the project. The first and foremost of which is Adam Moladino, who produced a number of the tracks and played a lot of synthesizer. He has a credit on almost every song. He's also mixing a lot of the project. There are 2 music videos in existence now. There may be a third coming. Presently, the project is untitled, but it will receive a name soon. So just to talk a bit about my creative process, each song that I write starts on the guitar with a guitar part. And usually I develop a guitar idea and I take it as far as I possibly can, just in and of itself, one guitar alone. And then once I've done that, I start to add a melody, and that will be me playing the guitar and singing over the top of whatever I've written. And then once those two things are solidified, I'll add lyrics, and usually the lyrics are sort of a paint of coat on the harmony. I write lyrics by listening to the things that I'm playing, and whatever associations come to mind is what the lyrics end up being. And then once the lyrics are written, I record a demo, and this is an important piece of the process because this is where the parts start to come into place. I'll record MIDI drums, I'll record bass, really quick and dirty, not good takes, but the ideas all get there. And then once the demo is done, I start to develop the actual song into a produced recording. The first song that I want to talk about is The Meteorist. It is track 4 on the album, and it represents a part of my process which is sort of centered around capturing a moment in time. This track was written in a day and recorded in another day, and so really, all in all, it was about 2 days of work, and that's not how most of the songs happen. But for this one, it did. And it came out of a period of time right after I had COVID, and we'd all been locked down for around a year and a half. And I was sick again. It was like 2 weeks after I had recovered from COVID, but I had like a little cold. I couldn't really sing. And I decided to try and write a really soft, like folk-inspired piece of music that I could sing while I was sick. And so I did, and I spent about 4 hours writing the harmony and the lyrics, and then I recorded a demo on my phone. I sent it to Adam, and I sort of forgot about it. I didn't really play it again. I didn't think about it. And only when Adam convinced me to record it, after he told me he had a dream about the song, is when it actually got recorded. I went and visited him in LA, and in a day, we tracked the whole song. This is a very acoustic-oriented piece, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to sort of show you the first step in the process. So what a song of mine would sound like maybe on the day that I wrote it. So I'm just going to play this song for you guys really quickly. Too many pockets. Oh, there it is. Well, it's not the one I was looking for, but. signals no one calls. So I think they're all I had no hope. Okay, so yeah, that's what it would probably sound like on the first day that I wrote it. So, moving on, in January, I finished the album, and I was elated for about a day, and then I sort of started to panic because I realized that I had been doing what I knew how to do, and now came the part that I didn't know how to do, which is promoting an album and trying to get people to listen to an album. And so I had to sort of whip myself out of this panic by coming up with two questions. How do musicians make money? They don't. How do modern musicians connect to more listeners? And using these guiding questions, I did a little bit of research about record labels and the music industry. And ultimately, I decided that the best information that I could possibly get was someone who's succeeding within the music industry already. And that took me to a place where I reached out to a childhood acquaintance named Genevieve Stokes. She is signed with Sony record labels. She's really successful as an artist. She's touring nationally. She just released an EP. She already had an album out. She actually played against me in a high school battle of the bands. Neither of us won. She does indie music, and another reason that I really wanted to talk to her is because last summer a demo of one of her singles went viral on TikTok, like extremely viral, like millions and millions of plays within a week. And so I wanted to ask her about her experience with the internet and the music industry, not only just as an artist and as it pertained to her career, but also what it was like as a person to go through something like that. And so in our conversation, Genevieve talked a lot about how initially when she was an artist, like starting out, all of her success was driven by Spotify algorithms, editorial playlists, blogs, personal playlists. But as things have changed over the course of the pandemic, posting and internet virality is really the means to fast success in the music industry. And because her song went so viral, I was really curious about what that was like for her emotionally, because it was really only the demo of the song. It wasn't the actual song itself. And it was only 15 seconds of the song, which is not very much of a 4-minute song, you know, there's a lot of other parts. And I was just curious about how, as an artist, she felt about this. And she said this: when the ball's rolling, maintaining that audience and keeping people interested is really stressful. And I think it brought up a lot of feelings of not being good enough. Most of the time, I enjoy posting and talking to people. It's just more when there's pressure on you and all of these eyes on you, it can feel a lot different. Genevieve's main point on her internet viral success was basically that it was incredibly destabilizing for her as a person in a lot of ways. She felt like she was beholden to all these people she didn't know. She felt that all these people she had never met before were demanding too much of her and had an intimate window into her life which she wasn't comfortable with. And yes, she became a lot more successful as an artist as a result, but it seems that there was a trade-off. And I think it's unfortunate that in the modern music industry, musicians are expected more and more to be influencers, to be public figures, rather than just musicians, because it can lead to these questions of identity and who owns your identity. And I'm going to sort of use that to segue into another track on my album, which is track 2, Blue Light. It was written over the course of 2 months. It's very production-oriented. Most of it was developed in a DAW, which means on the computer. It's a lot of synthesizers, a lot of drum machines. That sucks. That was Keith's guitar. Okay. Jesus. Anyway, this is on garbage. So, the song is about computer-human interaction. It's about the way that we interface with technology and the way that it makes us feel. A lot of the lyrics of the song were based off an interaction I had with someone who was like a successful influencer person online. And I was stuck in a car with them for a couple hours. I was like trying to get to know them as a person, and they kept on just like saying Twitter jokes and like all this internet vernacular and like all these things that I knew from, you know, being online. But, you know, after talking to this person for hours and only getting this jargon, this sort of like culturally acceptable language, I realized that I didn't know them at all as a person, and I felt very unsettled by that. And so this song sort of unfolds in three parts. The first section is about is sort of meant to emulate the feeling of being online and the buzz of being connected to everyone, everywhere, all at once. You can talk to anyone you want. You can talk to someone halfway across the world. It's very exciting. So sonically, I tried to emulate that feeling with really buzzy guitar lines and a fast tempo and sort of a disoriented vibe. The second part of the song is about some of the darker things that you can see when you're just like looking at your phone. Like you can wake up in the morning, open social media, and see a plane crash halfway around the world, which you can't do anything about, and the existential dread that sort of conjures up in you, I think, is a really unique experience to our era. And so that part is really dark with a lot of like swirling synthesizers and production choices that create an aura of like anxiety. And then the final section of the song is sort of like the warm blanket feeling of coming home after a long day, and you know you should probably just go to bed, and you look at your phone for 3 hours, and it feels pretty good, but then also you're exhausted the next day. You know you really shouldn't have done that, or shouldn't be doing it, but you're doing it anyway. And so I'm just going to play this track for you in its entirety, and then, whoa, my desktop looks different. Oops.
Presentation.
There we go. Where is it?
You ready for presentation?
Right. It's not coming up. Love that. Is this?
It's right there. It's like
Oh, yeah, it's highlighted. Look at that. Okay. No, not App Store. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's see if this works. And Justin, I don't know if you can bump the volume on the speakers a bit, but maybe that would be good. This process has been really gratifying, but also super difficult, and there have been some very hard moments. And I just want to take a minute to say thank you to everyone in the music department for standing by me through those hard moments, because Lord knows that I have been difficult at times, and I have appreciated the support that everyone in the department has given me, including students. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here. Yamla just came in. Yamla and Will are both in my band, and we are playing. Yamla is no longer, but was an amazing member. And Will and I are playing at Violence Festival. So you should come on Saturday and see us play some of this music. Yeah.
Thank you so much, too. Especially for sharing like that. So much of that music, there's just such beautiful musicality in it, so it's really lovely to hear. So I wanted to, we have a few minutes for questions, if anyone has anything they'd like to ask. Oh, yes.
Thank you for your honesty and admitting to the hard work it takes to create anything. My question to you is, you mentioned in the beginning of your presentation about how the trend has gone from being working in a studio to working out of your home. I have a friend who is a professional digital engineer, and his concern is the lack of quality that is coming out for people who work on their computers using a DOS system. What is your opinion on that? Is that something that you've noticed as a trend, difference between studio and working at home, or is that do you feel that that's no longer an issue?
I think generally music being more accessible is a really positive thing. I think the fact that now anyone can make music is a really good thing for music. I think a lot of my favorite records from the last 20 years were produced at home. And I think there are, levels to what you're able to do at home. You're, of course, bound by the technology available to you. Music here is really expensive. But to be honest with you, I would say having done both, I recorded a full EP in a studio, and this project I recorded at home, and I much prefer the way this one sounds. And I also think there's so many factors that go into making music that production value in terms of, are you using the best microphones? Are you in a sound treated space? Are you using the best guitar with the best tone possible? It's not actually the way that music works, because most of the listeners who hear music aren't listening for production value, they're listening for the emotionality of the music itself. And so as long as you have the ability to communicate that emotion, why can't that be happening at home? That's the way that I sort of like to think about it.
Other questions?
Quite the good moonlight. It sounds like all of my favorite artists combined, so I'm definitely be listening. It's amazing. My question is, what synths did you use on that song? I'm guessing you used Ableton, so was it all like so, do you have cheap third-party synths that you would recommend to artists who are doing their better?
That's a nerdy question, Elliot. Most of the synths on those were honestly recorded on a chord monotron, which is a handheld synth that you actually play with a stylus. And so you can't play like chords or anything on it, but you can get really crazy sounds. And also, if you're only playing with one hand, like there are all these, well, there are actually not all these 3 knobs that you can turn at the same time to change the sound while it's playing. And so, like for a lot of the swirling, swooshing stuff in the middle section, that was just like the monotron. Adam, my collaborator, added some piano at the end. And I think he was producing out of Logic. But in terms of good like third-party plugins, yeah, I don't know. The one that comes with Splice is really not bad. And there's like a lot of options with that too, because you can just download. If you have a Splice subscription, you can just get like a lot of stuff. So that is sort of my go-to for synths, but also I'm like a synth novice, so.
You know, historically, usually composers get a text and then set it to music. And the words are the kind of initial inspiration. Like you were saying, you really use your inspiration.
Yeah.
And the words just kind of come along.
Yeah.
Do you ever have the words in mind, in the back of your mind, your musical mind? It's just pure music.
I mean, I'm sure subconsciously, like I read and listen to a lot of like audiobooks and podcasts and stuff, so words are always floating around, you know, sometimes for worse than better, but that's not what I think about. I think music is a distinct language from words. It's any like spoken verbal language that we can speak, and generally the way that I'm interested in communicating my ideas is through the language of harmony and making people feel things viscerally rather than comprehend things intellectually. And I think most of my favorite music has lyrics that sort of complement the way that the sound feels rather than lyrics that have distinctive meaning or meaning that's immediately discernible. So that's sort of how I like to think about it.
I like that. Sometimes Mozart was said to have had a musical idea before he had the aria. Then he has the words. But the real inspiration was in a musical idea.
So true, Mozart.
We have time for one more question. Do you want? Great job, Leo. It's awesome to see the culmination of all the sounds coming out of your bedroom over the last year. But also, I'm wondering, for the 2 songs that you played for us, you gave us some context on your inspiration. When people are listening to your songs, is it important to you that they understand that? And what do you think speaks for itself in music?
That's a good question. Also, Lino lives with me and has tolerated quite a lot of horrible noises coming from my
Enjoy.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't really care if people understand the songs or like understand them as I understand them. I think it's to me it's so much more important that the listener has space for themselves in the recording, that they can find connections to their own life. Because the song has a personal meaning for me, but once I release the music, it's not just mine anymore, hopefully. People will engage in it and interpret it, and it will become something different to them. And I think that's what makes music a really universal thing, is that you know, you can listen to a song about a very specific experience someone had, and for some reason it will make you think of something totally unrelated in your life, and that's so weird, like that makes no sense, but like the fact that that's possible is what inspires me to make music. So like my understanding of my songs is less than I'm like writing about my experiences so that everyone can understand me in a understand my experiences, and more I'm writing about my experiences, but I'm more trying to use the ability that I have to channel like more universal human experiences, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leo. We can give him one more round of applause. All right, so I think we are ready to transition to our next presenter, Ryland. And so while Ryland starts getting set up, I will provide an introduction. So, I'm very pleased to introduce Ryland Hayes. Ryland is from Redwood City. Is that in California? Yeah. Okay, in California. A personal fun music fact: in his life, he has destroyed 3 guitars and a guitar amp, and actually also a piano. I'm not sure how that happens. A random personal fun fact is that he has donated his hair 4 times and plans to do it again very soon. His plans after graduation, immediate, is to work as head of engineering at Sunshine Studios. His future plans are getting a master's in audio engineering and owning his own studio and label. So the title of Ryland's capstone is Capstone Concerts, and please, everyone, welcome Ryland Hayes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is my thesis project, Capstone Concerts. Brief overview of what we're going to talk about today. Capstone Concerts is a festival that I have put on with the help of many of you in this room. Thank you so much. And we're going to talk about the idea, the implementation from an idea to actually making it happen this Saturday, and then we're going to talk about the future and what I hope for Capstone Concerts when it's all said and done. So let's start with the idea. So, a festival, that is ambitious. That was the word that was used by Ryan Benegale in our very, very first advisor meeting. But despite his caution, he was very optimistic and jumped into both feet. And Capstone Concerts is a 1-day, 3-stage festival happening this Saturday, so please come and show your support. It's 12 hours of music, and it's all done by students. This festival is a festival that is put on by students for students. That was really important to me, to be able to have this collaboration effect rather than any kind of conflict or competitiveness. It's also really important too that it displays CC's really talented artists and the hard work that they have put in, just like Leo. Leo will be performing all of the stuff in his EP, or most of it. And then also another important thing for me is to provide an experience for students who want to work events and concerts and give them kind of the idea of what actually it takes to put on these big events, because it's a lot of work. So, what actually constitutes a festival? Is it screaming fans for their favorite rock star? I mean, there's a lot of great bluegrass concerts that don't have screaming fans, so I wouldn't say it's that. Is it rock stars destroying their equipment? As a AV guy, I say no. Respect your equipment and your microphones. Won't be happening at this concert, that's cool. Is it the outfits and having a big Instagram followers, or so you can actually get any kind of experience like that? Again, I would say no. I made my own definition for what constitutes a festival. What makes a festival is tying a few concerts over several stages or times together through a shared motivation or purpose that is being conveyed to a target audience. So let's take a look at motivation and purpose of some of history's great festivals. I have to start with Woodstock. What was the motivation and purpose of Woodstock? It was a countercultural movement against war, or the Vietnam War more specifically during that time. The motivation and purpose of Live Aid was to raise funds for the famine that was happening in Africa in 1985. Coachella, what is the motivation and purpose of Coachella? Is make as much money as possible. They're very, very financially motivated there. So now I want to discuss the target audience of these same festivals. The target audience for Woodstock was young Americans who wanted to protest the war in a peaceful way, also given the name hippies. There's Live Aid again, and the target audience for Live Aid was literally everyone. It was televised in all 7 continents, which I find a fun fact. And it's the first time that there was over 1 billion views of any program ever. And then what is the target audience for Coachella? Any fan can afford it. So, now I'm going to talk a little bit about my motivation and why I decided to spend so much time creating a festival. I wanted to do something after, 2 years of no concerts during the COVID-19 lockdown. I don't know about all of you, but when the first lockdown happened in California, I had 23 concert tickets set up, ready to go. It's my happy place, and COVID took that away from me. So I really wanted to allow students to have concerts that they can perform at. The target audience, well, that should be pretty obvious. It's the CC community. I wanted to give back to the community that welcomed me with open arms. And finally, a big motivation for this is that I want it to be recurring annually. So then that way, it can reflect the constant changing CC music scene. Every 4 years, we get a bunch of brand new musicians who have their own voice, and I want them to be heard as well. If you take a look at this diagram here, starts with the plan, goes into the festival, and the festival happens, and we hear feedback from the students of exactly what should change and what should happen, and so that goes right back in the plan, and hopefully this cycle continues. Remember this diagram. So one festival that I wanted to talk about a little bit was Burning Man, because they also had a reoccurring annual thing, and it started in one way and turned into a completely different thing. So this is a picture of 1989. It started in 1986, where it was an artist, more specifically a sculptor, who used wood, and he took all of the creations that he made that he was no longer happy with, and he made a bonfire with 10 of his friends. This bonfire eventually became more and more. It was impromptu and free, and by 1999 they had, I believe, 1,000 people on this beach, and the state of San Francisco said no, or the city of San Francisco said, no, enough's enough, find somewhere else to do it. Now we're going to flash forward to last year's Burning Man. This is a picture of what it is. It is completely financially motivated now. It can be up to $1,000 for all expenses paid ticket. It takes years to plan and over months to set up, and at times it can have over 50, sometimes over 60,000 people. Cool little fact about it, during the time of Burning Man, it becomes the 3rd largest city in the state of Nevada. Crazy. So now you kind of have an idea, or have a understanding of my idea. Now it's time to talk about the implementation and how to actually get a festival going. So my journey started with this guy, John Phillips. John is a very, very impressive individual. He's a music manager for the last 25 years, and he has created both Cali Roots and Cali Vibes, which is an R&B and a reggae festival respectively. And I was able to have an interview with him a little bit about what I was planning to do in the very, very early stages of my festival planning. John gave me lots and lots of great advice, and I can't say all of it during the presentation, so I kept it down to 3 quotes that I will be discussing today. The first lesson from John: starting out, it's all about minimalism. Less is more when you're trying to establish yourself. Voltaire. This was really something that I had to take to heart. My first iteration of this festival was over 6 stages, over 3 days, and something like 50 to 60 hours worth of content. Kind of a big undertaking at that point, and so especially for the first iteration, I needed to scale down and make it more reasonable. So that was something that I learned from John. Next lesson from John: budget is everything. And if you aren't going to be selling tickets for profit, it's even more important that you are creative with how you use your money. This is another important thing. I've never budgeted anything over like a friend's birthday party before, so it was really important that I am tight with money and I understand where every dollar is going to go. Third lesson from John: having done this for 20 years, it's all about how organized you are. If you can't even organize your own thoughts, how could you get them across to a donor? For those who know me, I am not the most organized person. This is something that I had to kind of learn by being thrown into the fire. We'll talk more about organization and budget a little bit later in the presentation. So first, after talking with John, then I had to get more people involved. The festival isn't done by one person. So I first started with the music department heads, talking to Ryan, Ito, Ofer, Sue. All of these people were really, really helpful in starting the foundation of what would be Capstone Concerts. They also had to okay it because it was going to be my thesis. So, campus activities and moreover just the general bureaucracy of CC in general. I had to make sure that this would fly with everyone in there, and after I got a lot more organized, they jumped on and were very much on board. Next is the student artists. This was, in my opinion, the most fun, getting everyone involved, because it was the most resounding yes I got of all of these groups. Everyone was so excited to play, and it was a really great thing to see the CC community rise to the occasion. So, finally, student clubs. I want to shout out specifically B-Side and CC Mobile Arts. Both of them are going to be very, very involved in my festival, and it's something that I was really thankful for them to be a part of. Here are just some of the people involved in this festival. If you see your name out there, I didn't get everyone, I didn't have space. So there's just a lot of stakeholders in this festival here. Finally, I want to talk about this tool. All of these different stakeholders had multiple requirements, even if it was as simple as what guitar amp am I using, all the way to where is the majority of my budget coming from. All of these requirements all of these multiple requirements had constantly changing inputs, and it was quite a lot to actually get done. All of these inputs had a ripple effect that kind of messed with my organization, so I just kept restarting, and it just never really got anywhere until I decided to build a tool in Google Sheets. This tool was, let's actually take a look at it. So, starting here, we can look at the stage. We'll just look at Packard right now. Everyone can see my mouse, yeah? Okay. Packard stage. Then here at the type is all the different jobs types that were required to be happening during Packard stage. Cost we'll get into a little bit later. Here's a schedule of 15-minute increments of what actually will be happening on these stages. We have a new schedule, so it's a little outdated, but still this tool was the majority of my planning. Here's concert amphitheater, musical acts and the jobs that were going to be happening there. And then finally, the huge one at North Palmer Quad, where we have, I think, 7 hours of music. And all of that. Here in the costs, it's interchangeable, so we can move to the cost page down here. And all of it is automated, so you put in a number and it chugs out exactly what that cost will be depending on the input of your hourly wage. Then also we have the lists here, which is how the tool is interchangeable. So I can actually change all of these different names, even the stage names themselves, so that this tool is fully customizable for future iterations of Capstone concerts. Here is the operation plan. This is what I had to present to campus activities and campus safety in order to get them on board. Here's resource names, a little bit about who's going to be working it. This is the map of the quad, schedule of the days surrounding this festival as well as the day itself, and then emergency response plans, and then finally lots of incident reports and stuff like that, so the nitty-gritty. Here is a brief overview of the Packard schedule, the acts list, the equipment that's required, all the things that will be happening in timestamps, and then finally the contact sheet, exact same as the COSIT contact sheet, and then finally North Palmer Quad, where a lot of student bands will be performing. It's the actual schedule, and then finally the contact sheet again. We also did quite a lot of promotion of the event. We started with an Instagram page here. If you want to follow, here is a QR code if you were so inclined. But this Instagram page will be up for future, so new iterations of Capstone concerts can constantly be updated and changed. We also created posters. Here's one poster. We also have another version of the poster that actually was created today. So look out for that on campus as well. And then finally, the biggest way of promotion was word of mouth. We told the student performers to actually tell their friends, hey, I'm performing at this time. This is when you should come. And this is definitely the most we've heard, or this is definitely the way that we've spread the word the most with promotion. So that was the implementation of the festival. Now we're going to talk briefly about what I hope for the future of Capstone concerts. This tool that I created, or I'll start with it. This kind of cycle of annual festival to feedback plan to annual festival, this kind of idea was really important to me to be able to continue this kind of legacy. The tool that I built that is fully customizable, so we can change, like I said before, the stage names or the names of the different people. That's going to live right here in Plan. So then that way it can be changed for different iterations. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. There are so many faces in this room that are going to be involved in this festival in some way, shape, or form, and I'm extremely thankful to all of you for making this happen, making a silly dream a reality. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Riley. So we have some time for questions. Anyone has any questions for Riley?
Well done, Ryan. That's pretty cool. Super excited for Saturday. But one thing I was kind of curious about, like when you were showing your charts and stuff, is there are so many things on there that I would have never considered to like even think about, like incident reports or emergency plans. Never would have crossed my mind. So I was wondering, like, was there something going into this that you were like, I gotta keep my mind on this like all the time. It's very important, and it ended up being not as important, or vice versa? Was there something you were like, nah, it'll be easy, it won't be a problem, and it it turned out being like, oh shoot, that's way more hard than I thought it would be?
Literally the entire thing. There are so many different parts where I had a plan, I was showed why that plan wouldn't work, and I said, okay, start over at square one. And it was extremely demoralizing at certain points to have this constant restart. But really it was just pushing through, and I mean, as for like, you know, the emergency response plans and stuff like that, it just kind of needed to happen. I was told that this needed to happen, and so I did it that day. You know, and just like there's just constant, even up to a few hours ago, there's just always these changes that are constantly happening. So just got to be on your toes and vigilant with it.
Other questions?
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So my question is, I think I'll start with, I think it's really cool that you're going to have a festival like this, and an important element of music festivals is venue, right? And so I'm curious about your intentionality as to which performers have been asked to perform at which venues, or why you chose the venues you did.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, starting out, we had 6 different stages, and I was just thinking, okay, let's separate it by genre just right off the bat. Packard being classical, because it makes sense. Cosset being where there's not really a lot of electricity access. We would have to bring in like hundreds of feet of extension cords for anything. So that's where I decided, oh, well, let's do the acoustical stuff. So all the acoustical, so gamelan, mariachi, bluegrass, any kind of acoustical stuff is going to be all placed there. And then the big one, I come from a background of rock and indie rock, having produced a lot of albums from here, specifically indie rock. Just kept them together, especially since similar instrumentation means quicker changeovers, so we can have more music during that time instead of having, oh wow, we need a synthesizer, and getting that from somewhere else, you know. So that's kind of my thought process of putting it all together. That was just circumstantial, and I'm sure that in other iterations, you know, maybe in like a few years, they may totally switch it up, you know, and that's the beauty of this, is that they're able to do that.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious if you could talk more about what your role will be on Saturday, like during the festival. So I guess your main responsibilities, tasks, and goals as of that day.
I will ask you to remind me of the second question. First, I will be running around putting out flyers. That will be my job. I will essentially be anything from a stagehand to a front of house engineer to, oh wow, the food truck ran out of something, I need to get it. So that'll be my job on Saturday. I would love to be able to chill and watch all the great performers, but that's not how this works. So, and then your second question?
Well, yeah, okay, so the second question is, obviously this was like out of control, but I think it's kind of a shame that you have to present before the actual festival happened. So I'm wondering if there are going to be like opportunities or avenues for, you know, faculty, staff, students, and also performers to give feedback on this, and if so, how should we do that?
One, the Instagram would be fantastic. One of the reasons that we created it was for feedback. So shoot texts or DMs or whatever it is to that for feedback. Another way is talking. And then finally, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm waiting to finish my paper until it's done, so then I can get that feedback, put it in, and see how it's going to potentially change with that feedback. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. I can ask one if no one else has one. Oh, we do have one.
What's up?
you said you wanted to make this sort of like a future thing in coming years, and I was just wondering how you plan on doing that. Are you going to make like a club or something? Are you going to come back every year for the rest of your life?
So that is not what I'm planning to do, unless they pay me. What I really want to have happen, and what seems to be happening currently, is getting students excited about this and having it be something that they take on themselves. Not to name any names, but B-Side specifically has really embraced this idea and have a lot of young students from freshmen, sophomores, even juniors who are really excited with this idea, are going to give it their all for this iteration, and then have already come up with plans and stuff of how they're going to change it. So my final thing for, there's the paper, there's the Google Spreadsheets tool, there's all the different ops plans and schedules that can be used as templates. All of that will be widely accessible, and they can use that to do it themselves. And that's something that is still important to me. When I'm not a student anymore, it's not students for students then, you know? So that's the real need of capstone concerts and what I hope for the future. And it seems to be happening already, so.
Sweet. Thanks so much. I'm really excited for the festival.
He's also going to be playing everyone, so come and support Will.
Yeah, no, I think we're all just really impressed by this like monumental and amazing undertaking that that you're doing, and we're all really excited for Saturday. So I'd love if we could give Ryan one more round of applause. Alrighty, so I think we're ready to transition. Oh, you want a 5 minute? Do y'all want a 5-minute break? You folks feel like taking that? Okay, let's take 5 minutes, and I'm not sure what time it is. Come back at 4:40 if we could. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So I'm really pleased to be able to introduce William Broder. William's hometown is Warren, New Jersey. And a fun musical fact is that apparently he could sing before he could speak. So his parents say that he would sing Buffalo Soldier by Bob Marley before he was able to form coherent sentences. A random personal fun fact is that he really loves food and spends a lot of time going to new restaurants and ordering too much food. And then he has lots of leftovers, which he then subsequently also eats, depending on how hungry he is. His plans after graduation are immediately to continuing to work at Burble and also traveling and working within the next couple of years. So the title of his capstone is Music in Web 3. Metaverse, tokenization, and change in the industry. Welcome, Will.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to deliver my research into the world of Web3 and music. I want to say thank you to everyone who's helped me through what has been a very fluid and dynamic thesis process. The overarching theme that I've been grappling with over the past year has been change. This is because my project has changed so drastically over the past bunch of months due to changes in my employment. Initially, I had planned to do research on the music of Sumba, Indonesia, but due to difficulty in timing and communication, this project had to be postponed. I'm still very motivated to complete this endeavor in coming years, but as I learned, it just wasn't feasible for a capstone project on the blog plan. For future capstone students in the department, I hope to serve as an example that change is bound to happen and that you shouldn't be afraid to accept it. Now, over a year ago, I began working for Burble, a New York City-based startup that is revolutionizing the music publishing industry by turning artists' intellectual property into digital tokens. Tokenization allows artists to control their intellectual property more closely. It also allows for an additional revenue stream for the artists, moving away from the current digital streaming platform model. Now, all of that is a lot of music industry and crypto jargon that not everyone should be completely familiar with, so I'll break down what Web3 is at its core. Embarking on this research has been very beneficial to my understanding of Web3 in music, but it is also very novel and lasting vast publication. Since artificial intelligence, or AI, is a part of Web3, here is a concise explanation of Web3 generated by every professor's new favorite tool, the chat box, ChatGPT. And hopefully I won't sound like Prime Minister Modi here. Web3 is the next generation of the internet, which is being built on decentralized technologies such as blockchain, peer-to-peer networks, and smart contracts. Unlike the current web, which is largely controlled by a handful of corporations, Web3 is designed to be open, transparent, and decentralized, with no central authority controlling the flow of information or transactions. At its core, Web3 is about creating a more democratic and equitable internet that empowers individuals and communities, rather than just a few tech giants. It is about giving people greater control over their data, identity, and online interactions, while enabling new forms of digital collaboration, governance, and commerce. The chat box then begins to describe different industries where Web3 can make an impact. One of the main ones is art. Music is a great proof of concept for Web3 because it remains one of the most prominent forms of art around the world, and existing through an industry which has traditionally been dominated by large record labels. The decentralization of the music industry would enable artists to have more direct control over their music and earnings, while also creating new revenue streams and fan engagement opportunities. One technology that enables this is that of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. Yes, the controversial form of art trading that has been all the buzz in recent years. While I myself do not partake in any buying or trading of such assets, the technology itself needs to be recognized as more than just a silly JPEG. In brief, the way a token works is that a digital item, a file, image, document, etc., is given a unique code. This code is then cross-referenced by thousands of computers, known as the blockchain. It works similarly to how banks check transactions, but instead of banks, it is computers, and instead of money, it is data, in the form of a unique code. The idea of something that is notarized and recognized by the internet, giving the digital item value, is a huge part of Web3. The value isn't necessarily monetary. I'm pretty sure everyone Everyone here has signed a digital PDF document before. Signing up for music lessons in this department requires it, with pretty much everything requiring a signature. Every time I fill out a DocuSign, I can't help but feel how worthless that document really is. There is no real validity to the PDF. However, if it was an NFT, it would be verified on the internet in the same sense that banks verify transactions from bank to bank. This is just one use case, but the idea of things existing on the internet holding value is what needs to be recognized. This can be done with digital music. If artists sold their music as NFTs, they could be creating a new form of merchandise for their fans, also allowing them to share revenue on the music, cutting out the labels and corporations as middlemen. Artists can still utilize the old digital streaming platform model, I'll be referring to this as DSP from now on, to continue reaching their audience traditionally, but this new form of engagement has the power to change the industry fundamentally. Another way Web3 can change the music industry is through fan engagement. New developments in the metaverse are now allowing artists to interact with their fans around the globe simultaneously. Now, disclaimer, when I say metaverse, I'm referring to the internet as it is becoming more and more interactive. This includes virtual reality, augmented reality, and all the ways you seamlessly interact with the internet. Your phone is an extension of the internet, making it a device with access to the metaverse. The tech giant Facebook made a fairly recent decision to change its holding name to Meta, so it's important to recognize that what they are actively promoting isn't the end-all be-all for the metaverse. It is purely a marketing move that is confusing many unfamiliar with the true metaverse. So, how can the metaverse impact artists and their fans? Traveling for worldwide tours puts strain on artists, as well as creating issues when an artist has to select which locations to perform in. The new digital landscape of the metaverse allows fans to have intimate interactions with their favorite artists from anywhere on the planet, while simultaneously giving the artist more autonomy in their life. Looking at some recent examples of metaverse concerts, the two most notable have been the Travis Scott concert in 2020 with the gaming platform Fortnite, and Justin Bieber's 2021 concert produced by Future House Studios. Both were overwhelmingly successful, with the Travis Scott concert raking in roughly $20 million from a single performance. What made the Justin Bieber concert so successful was how interactive it was. It allowed fans to have an intimate digital experience with Bieber in the digital world. Both of these very early metaverse concerts proved that with the correct fan base and a suitable platform, these events can not only be profitable, but fun for fans and more streamlined for artists. In an article written by Jacqueline Mumford from the Utah Business Magazine, it goes over the specific aspects of Bieber's Future House Studios concert and how groundbreaking it really was. She describes the experience as a combination of gaming and real-time motion capture into one immersive, interactive experience. Mumford also describes the shortcomings of traditional live concerts as follows. When you go to a traditional concert, you have to get on a plane, book a hotel room, match a bunch of your friends' schedules to get together, and that's even if you get the tickets. These are all pain points that are eliminated by metaverse experiences. The title of the article also brings up an interesting point. Why sit in the nosebleeds when you can interact directly with celebrities online? The interactions that took place within the concert were directly between Bieber and the fans, including messaging, sending emojis, posting messages on signs that appeared on the virtual stage, and having their avatar on stage dancing with the performers. Metaverse concerts like this have become more and more popular, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced the performance industry to shut down. The article makes it clear that while COVID helped hasten and popularize the technology needed for these concerts, it has been in development for much, much longer. The article also discusses the need for diverse competition in the concert space, stating the bigger the tent, the better, which aligns itself with the decentralized ideals of Web3. Live performance and live music are one of the oldest human traditions recorded. Ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Chinese civilizations all have records of hosting regular live performances. From pure entertainment to religious purposes, performance has survived through the ages. In a book titled Liveness, Performance in a Mediated Culture, Philip Auslander discusses the differences between live performance and other mediums in our modern era of media. He focuses in on the role of technology in our experiences and challenges the idea that live performance is more authentic and effective than mediated forms of performance. His conclusion is basically that the unique characteristics of different types of mediated performance experiences can be equally valuable in terms of expression. Since his book was published in 1999, he did not much address what the online world would or could become. However, it would be correct to say that with our newest technologies, and as they continue to, However, it would be correct to say that our newest technologies continue an established path of emerging mediated and live performances. Personally, I have a very close relationship with live performances. From a young age, my parents would always take me to concerts big and small. I personally enjoyed the smaller bar-setting concerts where you can really be intimate with the artist. Of course, this meant that most of these performances were with artists of smaller followings. This meant that I could focus in on the music and not the identity or brand of the artists. Going to concerts is always a way that my family will enjoy time together and unwind. Growing up in New York City allowed me to be exposed to various types of performances like opera, ballet, symphonies, choirs, etc. Being in the presence of an orchestra or large ensemble has a special power that, in my opinion, has yet to be digitally replicated successfully. All the tiny intricacies of the sounds produced by each individual instrument at the discretion of each performer hasn't been achieved digitally yet. That being said, recording and streaming technologies are getting to the point where this will be possible. We will soon be able to replicate a live orchestra beyond a basic recording, allowing it to be experienced by people in remote locations who have never been able to experience anything of the sort. That is the power of Web3. Being in a live audience also has its benefits and drawbacks. In an academic journal titled Physiological Synchrony of Audiences of Live Concerts, it discusses an experiment that measured the physiological convergence in individual audience members during a concert setting. It used 3 classical performances and measured the audience members' heart rate, respiration rate, and skin conductance response. This is a very scientific way of measuring how the music of a live performance affects people. They found that there were many similarities between the individuals, but all 3 concerts were traditional classical music concerts, Beethoven, Brahms, and Brett D, where it is expected that the audience is quiet, respectful, and completely engaged with the music. Compared to, say, a pop or rap concert, the audience interactions with each other are so different. The journal discusses this and says that these other concerts are a mix of induction and interaction synchrony. Induction synchrony refers to the effect of the performer directly inducing emotions and behaviors in audience members. Interaction synchrony, on the other hand, is the mutual influence between audience members and the performer. Interaction synchrony is the main difference between classical concerts and other forms. It is the metaverse which is revolutionizing how audiences experience interaction synchrony, now allowing communities to interact with their peers in a digital setting. As was stated earlier, the technology and adoption of the metaverse was boosted significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic, but the idea of live performance isn't completely novel. The Rolling Stones did a pay-per-view live stream on the internet in 1995, which was fairly successful for the internet in its early stages. AOL and Yahoo also hosted many events, which had decent watch rates. Today, live streams are very popular, and artists will often debut new content using live platforms on the internet, such as Instagram or TikTok. Now, these events are more monetizable with the global economy of Web3 and the interactive nature of the metaverse. In an article about music in the metaverse, Gregory Pryor argues that the largest arena tours cannot accommodate anything close to the instant, one-time global audiences that can be attracted to an online metaverse performance. When Travis Scott hosted his metaverse performance with Fortnite, there were 27.7 million unique players, or audience members, with 12.3 million peak users online at one time. As mentioned, the event raked in around $20 million in revenue through the sales of in-game items like skins, emotes, and collectibles. While a lot of this concert definitely stemmed from hype and the novelty of the experience, it says a lot about the potential demand for events like this, which will only become more advanced and popularized around the globe with time. Having one event pulling this kind of attendance and revenue figures cannot be ignored by the music industry. While it is one event surrounded by many others that have had less success, it goes to show that for the correct audience with the correct execution, it can be a sustainable model for live performance in the future. Web3 also has many uses outside of the realm of music, such as finance, marketplaces, identity management, and supply chain management. Many of these things will happen without the general public really being engaged or aware of these things, but it is where art and music differ. I conducted an interview with Eric Spence, the founder of the company Verbal, which I've been working at, and he gave me insight into why art will lead the change to Web3. Spence said art is ubiquitous, yet compared to other asset classes, much more fluid. It captures human attention and sticks in your head. You remember an image and songs get stuck in your head. This doesn't happen with stocks or real estate, especially with the shorter attention spans humans seem to be having these days. Images, especially music, holds more resonance in your head. Having been in the industry for over 30 years, Spence is more than qualified to answer questions about change between the current industry and how Web3 will change. The key difference, he stated, is that in our current industry, the DSPs act as intermediaries between artists and their fans. They are the distribution channel. With Web3, it is a direct connection or engagement between artists and fans, eliminating the intermediary. This creates a value exchange without a third party. For artists, Spence sees the Web3 opportunity to be enormous. He stated that artists are primarily served or paid by their fans. This takes place mainly in the form of merchandise purchases, concert tickets, and of course, their streaming royalties. With Web3, their brand value as an artist becomes multi-directional. It allows artists to create a microeconomy. A DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization, is basically a self-supported organization that is dictated by the holders. This Web3 technology will allow artists to create their own organization out of their community, sharing the value of themselves as an artist. Here's an example that Eric Spence gave. When Taylor Swift performs at a city, her fans take to the internet to share that they're going and make posts about the concert. This is basically free, uncontractual marketing done for her. A DAO would allow her fans to become decentralized marketers and they would be sovereign to deliver value for the artist at their own discretion. Their payment would come from being a shareholder in the DAO or Web3 community. Labels and touring agents are the ones who do this work in the current model, but now that work can be done and controlled by the fans. The big idea here is that Web3 is displacing the major labels and agencies, kind of how Bitcoin disrupted the banking industry. Like Bitcoin, it will not be accepted by everyone. This is just a fact. But as the number of adopters continue to increase, more and more artists will have the freedom to have autonomy over their music, their brand, and their community. Recently, the management for pop and R&B artist Rihanna released a collection of NFTs. The fans that purchase these earn fractional portions on the royalties on these songs via the blockchain technology. However, this was quickly scrapped since the Securities and Exchange Commission hasn't come up with a way to classify tokens. In Europe, the European Securities and Markets Authority classifies NFTs as financial instruments, allowing royalty sharing to be legal and possible. It is unknown when or how the US will act on token classification, but it will be required for this aspect of tokenization to be beneficial for artists in the US. I asked Eric Spence to talk briefly about the benefits and drawbacks of Web3 technology for music and why Web3 should be adopted more widely by artists. Here are the points he made. Benefits include, as stated previously, removing the intermediaries between artists and fans and giving artists more autonomy. One point that Spence brought up is how difficult it is working with the major labels. He said it can be very frustrating when there is money allocated for certain quarters for each artist. It operates less fluidly than how the artist would like. He gave one example of when he was working with an artist associated to one of the major groups. Apologies, I have to keep the names anonymous. But they were wanting to release new music and were forced to delay because the label wouldn't give them sufficient funds for a marketing release. This screwed up their tour plans and rollouts. This lack of autonomy is frustrating to artists and isn't fair to fans who want to experience their artists authentically. The drawbacks that Spence brought up were that the labels will try to fit the old models into the new paradigm of Web3, but that just won't work. The technology behind tokenization is not as governable as the labels would want, and they would lose control of their artists. The artists and their fans would have to drive this change, but there will be pushback from the music executives. For music publishers, this technology cannot be implemented quickly. Artists have to agree to this change pretty much as a whole. Like when Spotify started importing catalogs, not everyone's on board with this. There are numerous lawsuits involved with Spotify over this issue, and it is likely to happen again with Web3 companies. One concern people have with Web3 is how aspects of it have the potential to replace things in our normal everyday lives. While it is true, I feel that since we are in such early stages of these emerging technologies, we have the choice to decide just how much we want to have changed. As an avid concert goer, there's absolutely no chance that I would give up going to live concerts. Being in the presence of a live ensemble with a live audience, interacting with the people and the live sound isn't something that I and many others would be ready to give up in place of virtual concerts. The fact is that these artists have fans and future fans all around the world, and the connectivity of the internet has the potential to deliver new experiences to them. Variety is also fun, and the metaverse is an infinitely creative space, allowing designers to create anything an artist would desire. It will be exciting to see what artists create with this new technology. Going back to the theme of change, it is important to recognize how difficult it will be to move away from the unfair DSP model. It is a burden for artists who struggle to support themselves, as well as those who are successful in being taken advantage of by the streaming platforms. While it is difficult to determine exactly how this change will happen, it seems plausible that it will be driven by the artists and their fans, with the adoption of Web3 technologies. The shift to this more equitable system truly has the potential to revolutionize the music industry. It creates all kinds of new opportunities through global commerce and the marketability of artists. It creates pathways that have been impossible with the existing model. The potential benefits of blockchain technology for the music industry are undeniable. By embracing new technologies and business models, the industry would be shaped into a more fair, transparent, and sustainable system for artists of the past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. That was amazingly informative and brings up so many different questions, ethical, in terms of agency and all these things. So I'd love to open it up. Sounds like we have one question here already from Leo.
Nice work. I guess my biggest question about this is, like, as someone who doesn't really fully understand like the concept of a blockchain. I mean, after the presentation, I understand more, but I'm still beginner. Like blockchain and NFT stuff and like all that. I just, my experience with it has sort of been seeing a lot of people get scammed, I think, and like a lot of news about scamming, and particularly in like the visual art realm. And I was wondering like how it's different for music, if it's different, and like what, because it seems like the virtual concert is kind of hard to scam in the same way as like if you sell someone a bum painting of a monkey or something. So yeah, like what's the difference between visual stuff and musical stuff, and like how do you, as someone who's working in the field, like how are you sort of like thinking about potential scams and trying to like negate that sort of thing?
Sure. The big thing here is community. Having a large or like group of people interested in a similar idea and having the support behind the artist is really the big idea here. And with blockchain, everything is transparent, so you can kind of see exactly what is being transacted. If you can see exactly what the code is, and so it is very verifiable. It's just in these early stages, it's very easy for people to overlook the little things like making sure that your address is correct and making sure that what you're buying from and what you're supporting is the correct alias. But this is also an issue of how, of an early stage, the platforms aren't as built out yet. It is very like, techy at the moment, but that should hopefully become more and more user-friendly and more transparent. So.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Hello. Okay, so I guess I was just intrigued by something you said about the classification of tokens, especially in different countries. I guess this is a multi-part question. So I guess, could you repeat what you said about, does the US not currently classify tokens as anything?
Nope.
Okay, so building off of that, does that mean that artists currently cannot earn royalties?
They can't share their royalties.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, the SEC just has not come up with a way. I mean, they should soon because there are billions of dollars worth of tokens out there. It really needs to be like qualified like it is in the EU, but they just haven't done it yet. They're very slow moving.
Yeah. Well, so given the slow moving state of things at the moment, would you say that artists and musicians do have guaranteed ways to make money with this system, or is it still kind of awaiting further legal action by those above us?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of royalty sharing, they can't do that yet, but I personally know artists that are Web3 native artists. One person that I've worked with, she released a completely digital album, and so you aren't even able to access it unless you purchase the token. And she's gaining 100% of any revenue off of that. So people are able to make their living off of it currently.
Cool, thank you.
I also have a question about this revenue sharing, because I'm curious. I was wondering how you think this might impact smaller artists. I can see how this would be super monetizable for an artist that already has a large following and can convince their fans to, purchase these tokens and stuff. But if you were a smaller artist who was looking to monetize your music, that might be more difficult if you had like $100,000. I'm curious how you think that might work.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely scalable since the artist has full autonomy. They get to choose like just how much they would want to share, if they want to completely own it and go off of how people have been sharing their music in past years. That's perfectly up to them. It's really up to the artist. But if an up and coming artist were to want to share their royalties, it can almost be as if like their fans, or if they have a small fan base, they would be almost investing in them as an artist, growing their brand as a community.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thanks, Will. This is really fascinating, and I have so many questions that came up, and we can sort of address them. I really hope this is going to work and not be why Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, because I do worry about capitalists trying to take advantage of this kind of thing. But I think it's very interesting and has a lot of promise. I don't know if you guys know that Louise our own Packard Jazz director, is working in blockchain and creating these compositions that way. And so if you want to talk about it, you can do it. You just need to do it. Anybody else understands?
Any time for one more question? Anyone else? Okay.
I will. Great presentation. I guess I wanted to ask, one, if you can tell us what were some of the things that you've done in this, and then two, is this something that you plan on pursuing after college, and what you plan to be doing as a career for this?
Yeah, I mean, career-wise, I'm open to many things. In terms of what we've done at Burble already, we have come out with an NFT collection featuring certain artists. The artists, unfortunately, kind of changed their plans about it just because of the nature of how NFTs have been doing over the past couple of years. A lot of people get concerned when they see that these images, these image NFT collections are really volatile. So that kind of changed, but we're currently working with a lot of different things, different companies kind of partnering, setting the groundwork for our ecosystem. Right now we're in our funding phase, so I can't really talk that much about what we're currently doing, but yes, the plan is to continue working there in the next couple of years. Yeah.
So I know I said that was the last question, but I do have one burning thing I want to ask you, which is, I've heard of this thing, this is an ethical question. I've heard of this thing where people are sort of using some of these platforms to reproduce musicians who are deceased, so doing like musical holograms of folks who have passed away, like Michael Jackson and other famous artists. And I was just curious if you've been privy to any of those conversations working at Herbal and like how people are navigating that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's obviously a really great space for recreating concerts that have happened. Like it would be incredible to recreate Woodstock in a digital space and have people interacting. Right now the focus is more on the cutting edge and they want the latest artists and stuff, but yeah, there's definitely huge potential for recreating experiences.
Thank you. Yeah, let's give Will one more round of applause. Thank you, Will. All right, we have one final presenter for today who's actually going to use my laptop, so get that set up. So while Ting gets set up, I have the pleasure of introducing her. Let me just log you in. Okay, so while Yuting gets connected, I will introduce her. So Yuting Xia is from Shanghai, China. Her fun musical fact is that she actually has perfect pitch. And after graduation, she intends to explore more fields while also continuing to work on composition. Once we get the sound going, let's see. Perfect. I think that's right. Does that look right to us? Okay, good. All right. So welcome, Yuting.
Thank you all for being here. And my capstone project name is Elysium 2056. I know it is not a straightforward title to understand my project, so let me explain it to you a bit later. And this is the table of contents of this presentation. I will introduce my project following this structure. And because the time and some technical problems, the music in this presentation is not the final version, which should be a record version of me performing the piece. They are just pure MIDI file. I have composed 5 compositions for my capstone projects in collaboration with visual elements created by my friend Luca Xu. In creating her visual art, Luca wants to focus on the conflict between corporations and people. In a script she wrote in a previous class, the narrator records a car crash from a third-person perspective, planned by people on the street to resist the event, their discontents with life. Elysium is the bar important in this story because it is where to introduce the main character and most conversation occurs. It is also an irony here that the upper-class people enjoy everything and the other people can only seek Elysium in fake imagination through alcohol. And my aim for this project, honestly, I choose to do this project to push myself into the creative side of work. The project aims to express my feelings about the visual arts through music. The story happened in the cyberpunk worldview. Cyberpunk is a branch of science fiction that focuses on information technology. Its story background is mainly based on the juxtaposition of law and life, advanced science and technology with illustrations, broken social structure to a certain extent. The framework is often about how the government or the syndicate highly controls the society order or the secret society. And the character exploit the loopholes to make breakthrough. Science fiction writer Bruce Bosker coined the term cyberpunk in 1980, and William Gibson's 1984 science fiction novel Neuromancer popularized the term and started a genre of science fiction literature. And the composition, I will briefly introduce all the drawings my friends gave me. This picture is the first picture of drawing series. It provides an overview of the city where the story takes place. This picture first introduced the main character of this story. She was having a monologue staring at the mirror. Every night here is the same droning music, the same low regulars, the same glow from those insufferable holograms on the streets below. 27 minutes until I'm off of work. It provides the attitude of the main character straightforwardly. In the introduction, I mentioned the conflict between people and corporations in this story, and this picture uses environmental elements to demonstrate the conflict will happen. This painting is not related to the storyline. However, it uses the same elements, rain, to maintain consistency. It serves as the seventh grade of Ionian mode. It creates tension and makes people want to resolve it. What's happening in the conflict? It also brings a contrast between the last picture and this one. I talked to Luca about this picture. She wanted to express the strength and beauty of hope in people's hearts, even if under this dark world. This picture expresses people are having conflicts on the streets. The car the main character takes doesn't have enough time to brake and it crashes into the building. For the sake of the length of the presentation, I choose two compositions I wrote. It was the first one and the last one. I chose this case because although the picture was not directly related to the storyline, it provides an overview of city where the story took place. From the background of the cyberpunk world, we know people's lives are full of inequality. The picture's tone is dark, so I knew it represents more about the ordinary people of the world. Life has no hope for them, and it was gloomy since most of the resources were held in corporation and government institutions. I did not know what to do with it at first. Although it was the first picture my friend sent me, it was not the first composition I created in my process. I wrote the second reflection first, and I wrote the car crash next. When I saw the picture, I did not have much inspiration, perhaps because it was the first composition among the all five, so the meaning was already different because it was the opening for the entire composition. Originally thought that I maybe would just compose in all 9 chords. However, as a composer, I know that if I kept worrying instead of writing something, I would not produce anything in the end. I pushed myself to begin writing. It was much easier when the process began, and I had some new ideas when I started to write. For example, in the end, I write session B using major chords to build the contrast. Choosing this opening drawing would give the audience a sense of words and establish the overall tone for the 5 of my composition. I create a relatively slow tempo to create brief and heavy feelings representing ordinary people as if there was a stone on them and they were breathless. The complement was square and demonstrate a lack of movement to enhance the feeling of their repetitive life and happiness. On the dynamic side, I didn't choose to have much change throughout the composition to further create this feeling of heaviness and boredom. Beginning at measure 23, I created a bridge to modify the tune to the parallel major. I chose E major because of the concept of parallelism. While ordinary people were struggling with life, the corporation and the government institution enjoyed their life. They were living in the same world, but their lives were like a parallel line. It was totally different. I used a fast, wealthy feeling B section to build the high contrast between heavy section A and lively section B. I wrote a wealthy feeling part B because it made me related to the noble dance party and brought an elegant feeling. The flowy accompaniment was another contrast point of section B. Instead of chords on the downbeat, I brought the chords down to create a livelier feeling. After part B, I went back and landed on part A again because the tune of the story and the drawing were landing on more of a gloomy side. I dragged things back to remind the audience that we were still in a sad story told from ordinary people's perspective. Although given this name, from the picture we can see that the artist didn't focus on the result. She focused more on the process. It is the end of the script and two sides are in confrontation. One is protesters and the other is the police and military officers. They are in a very tense atmosphere and are close to fighting each other. After the conflict between protesters and officers intensified, they fought with each other. The main character was in a car driving towards them. However, the crowd didn't move, so the car crashed into a building. I used dots and rest to create instability to mimic the tense atmosphere in the crowd, where with just one more step, everything could go wrong. It is also a little weird on the performance side, since when I played it, my instincts would make me play play on the downbeat. I wanted to emulate two clauses using this staggered melodic line and accompaniments. The appeal of the protesters would not be fulfilled because it would reduce the profits of the upper class. The fit of the melody line and accompaniment in measure 2 and 4 represents a fake peace between the two classes. In measure 7, I use the notes that does not belong to the tonality to represent that something went wrong after all, and the conflict between the class broke out. Beginning from measure 9, the composition enters part B. Unlike some of the previous composition, this part B does not transform into a major tonality to create a contrast between the part A and B. Instead, I choose to create a tense tempo to separate them. The pattern of the eighth notes of beats 3 and 4 appears alternately. I wanted to create the sense that these two classes were attacking each other and were well matched in strings, representing a tough battle of both sides. In measure 17, I added triplets in melody and accompaniment to break the sense of stability. The balance between the two sides broke down, further intensifying their battle. I encounters a problem when I write in this part, because I want further development and or changes in melody. And I wrote accompaniment quite differently than the version I put here. However, it feels very separate, like it did not belong to this whole composition. The lower version is the first edition of this composition. We can see that the pattern of the melody has already changed, and accompaniment also did not related to the previous part. That is why it caused the problem. I wanted to keep my melody the same, so I changed my accompaniment. I keep the accompaniment pattern from the previous part so they feel more connected. From measure 25, the composition turned back into A. However, I wrote the melody in unison and slowed the tempo. The car crash happened because the conflict between these two classes. The slower tempo was to create a feeling of grief for the car crash. And although the melody is identical, I chose the octave to imply that the battle was restricted to these two classes and applied elsewhere. The instability of the section is intended to put an emphasis of the critical of the word. I I find some problems in the composition. For example, the tempo is nearly physically impossible to reach in the car crash if it is a live performance. I just decided to record it and speed it up using technology. As a composer, I need to remind myself more frequently about how people can perform my piece rather than just click the playback button. From planning this project to finalize it, I've been working through a lot. I was hesitant to start, for I didn't know what form I wanted to present in the end. I lost belief in myself, for I didn't know how to achieve the project in the way I wanted. However, I can still say at this stage I'm glad I challenged myself and produced my project as now it is. Finally, I want to thank the music department and the Professor Dan, Ido, Liliana, Ryan, and Offer for their support.
Thank you so much, Yiting. It's quite remarkable to do an undertaking of visual art combined with, composition and to use that as an inspiration. So yeah, I'd like to open it up to questions. If anyone has any?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. That was really good. And also, it was cool to hear about you using like science fiction as an inspiration, because I also find a lot of musical inspiration in science fiction. And so my question is, when you've composed other projects in the past, do you usually begin with like a story or a plot in mind, or do you kind of tend to find inspiration in other places too?
That's a great question. I think it depends. If I have something I'm interested to work with, I will actually building up my own story to express through music. But otherwise, I will just randomly start with some chords and build it up there.
Thank you.
Other questions?
You talked about it, this is a piece that you worked in collaboration with the artist, and when you gave a presentation, you told us the artist didn't give you the first image until later, and you had already kind of started working on some other ones. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about that collaboration, and were there other challenges or surprises along the way?
Yeah, it's actually it's hard to collaborate with people. And actually, I took a research block with offering block 1, and at that point, my friends didn't send me a single picture. And so it's hard to work in progress, I guess. And I just write many demos to see if this could connect it with the picture she eventually sent me. And yeah.
Other questions?
That was very similar to my question. I think since we're both in ego, sometimes collaboration is on the mind, but I'm just kind of curious as to whether or not there's a back and forth between you and the visual artist.
Yeah.
There.
She's my roommate, and I just knock her door to push her to send me the picture I need. And yeah, it's you have to compromise with each other about our projects, because we both need time to actually produce something. And yeah, I think the understanding is important in the whole process.
Well, that was super awesome. I
not as a big file. It'll be a lot more complicated. My question is, as a composer, I like to compose for piano because it's like what I know how to play, and I think I'm pretty uncomfortable composing for other instruments. And I was curious if you felt like, or if you thought about composing for other instruments or different instrumentations for different artworks, composing to look at different instruments.
Yeah, I also studied drum, so yeah, the percussion and piano are like most confidence to compose. And for the other instruments that I'm not very familiar with, I will just research some of them and know the realm of the instruments and how high the pitch or how low the pitch is actually can achieve to avoid me writing something ridiculous in the end.
Any final questions for you, Ting? All right, well, I'd love to give you one last round of applause. Thank you so much. So thank you so much to everyone for coming out today. We have our second day of senior capstone presentations tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m., followed by a reception in the lobby. So, yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.